Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap, this time looking at my week 2 match in the TPS, the Purple Society, against the league commissioner, Frandy, and his Washington Why Notties. As it stands, I am 1-0 after getting a strong 6-0 win in my first battle off of some really solid Cosmic Power Mew play that was just really able to kind of overwhelm pretty quickly into the match. And so we're looking to get some similar results in this week 2 showdown. It is against Frandy, who I have a very long history of playing. This is our 6th battle this year against each other, which is the most I have played against any single coach. So we have gotten to know each other's playstyles quite well, and even though the matches have thus far gone 4-1 in my favor, he's always a very difficult opponent to prep for, and he is very familiar with a lot of my playstyle. And so it's going to be somewhat difficult to not get caught by him calling some of my plays that I'm prone to doing, like some hard switches or some Pyukamuku strategies, things like that, that he is just used to seeing. So I'm going to need to adapt my game a little bit to try to keep him off on the back foot, just so that I don't get caught by any good prep by him. So we're going to take a look at this matchup and kind of take a look at the team I prepped for him, and then look at the pieces he had to work with as well. So looking at his team, he's got the Urshifu, which is the single strike Urshifu. Very scary Urshifu, very tough to prep around, just really good as a wall breaker. It's 97 speed stat, and its need to make sure it outspeeds my Galarian Darmanitan, I think, is going to help me in this matchup. I feel like it's going to force that into a Scarf roll because it also needs to outspeed the Mew, because Mew is obviously going to address it. And again, we've played each other a lot, so I don't think he's expecting he would get lucky with any sort of Sucker Punch play. I don't think he would expect my Mew to fall trap to that. And so he can't rely on priority to necessarily get around the Mew if he's not going to outspeed it with the Urshifu. So it seems like the Urshifu is going to be really incentivized to run Scarf in this matchup, and I'm going to prep with that in mind. Mega Scizor, another really good wall breaker, good momentum piece, good priority. It, unfortunately for him, has a pretty rough matchup against the Corviknight, and the Pyukamuku just doesn't really have a way to wall break either of them, especially the Corviknight, who can just kind of slow it down and stall it out with pressure. And it has a really hard time getting strong enough with any one move off a Swords Dance to really break it open. So I expect the Scizor to not be a hugely concerning piece in this matchup, just because it doesn't have the ability to push through some of the walls. Gengar, pretty big concern in this matchup. It's going to affect how I bring in prep a couple of things. Its Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, Stab is really hard for me to switch into. It has really good additional options with things like Thunderbolt and Psychic to pressure Corviknight, to pressure Nidoqueen. So this is a Mon I do have some concern about. I expect it to show up. I don't really have great answers, and so I'm expecting that to be a problem Mon throughout this matchup. Rotom Heat, just a good pivoter. Doesn't really deal with Nidoqueen well at all. It has to use Overheat to hit Nidoqueen for damage. It can't status Nidoqueen with its normal things of Toxic or Thunder Wave. And so it gets really shut down by the Nidoqueen, and then Umbreon has the bulk to kind of wall it out as well as Mega Altaria if I wanted to bring that. So Rotom Heat has reason to come, but it also isn't going to be a piece that necessarily pressures me heavily. Vaporeon, good wish supporter, good flip turner, good status remover. The most concerning set I have for this Vaporeon, the one I don't want to see, especially when we get into my Mew set, is the Haze Vaporeon. Just really good at stopping setup. Although I don't expect him to prep around me bringing Cosmic Power Mew, simply because Urshifu doesn't care about that. He might still see the concern in setup Mew in some regards, and so a Haze set would really help to prevent that, because Mew struggles to get strong enough quickly enough to break through a Vaporeon. Vaporeon can pretty reliably hard switch in on pretty much every Mew. If that's a setup version, click Haze if I do a setup move and I can't two-hit KO it quick enough to push through it. So I expect Vaporeon to be a real struggle to get through in this match, but my hope is that Haze doesn't show up. Roserade, really good at setting, obviously, some spikes or T-spikes. Decent at special attack spam. I can't easily switch into some of its things, although Corviknight addresses its stab options, which is going to be nice. it does have other moves it can work with, Shadow Ball, things like that, especially if it's like a Specs or a Life Orb set, because Corviknight isn't going to be heavily invested in special defense. But I see it struggling to not get hard switched in by Corviknight every time, and so I don't expect it to necessarily be there just because it gives Corviknight a window. It's forced to retreat on Corviknight. Corviknight gets a slow U-turn. Corviknight gets into something else. So I see Roserade being anti-momentum for him, and so for that reason, I don't see it coming. Diancie, not really expecting this to show up. Doesn't really address anything particularly well. Obviously it beats something like Umbreon, but Umbreon's defensive. It beats something like Altaria, but like Altaria has options, especially if it's like Dragon Dance set with Earthquake. It can really kind of push through that pretty quickly. But Diancie's not really generating a lot of pressure. And again, Corviknight just pretty much hard switches in on every form of Diancie. It can kind of just sit there. It doesn't have enough strength to push through it very easily. It's very vulnerable to Iron Head if I decide to run that. So just not a great matchup for Diancie overall. The Donphan has some value in this matchup. It can pretty nicely pressure the Nidoqueen or the Infernape if it has the speed from like a rapid spin boost, but it doesn't really have any way to deal with the Corviknight. It's just really hard stopped by the Corviknight, and so for that reason, I don't expect it to see it. Noivern has one particular thing that's going to make me concerned in this matchup, which is Infiltrator Switcheroo, and that'll be meaningful when we get to my Mew set. Its ability to stop me from getting behind a sub and, theoretically tricking or switcherooing a choice item onto something like a Mew or something like a Nidoqueen or something like an Umbreon to take away their versatility could be a problem. So I see that kind of set being a concern. Offensively, I don't have too much concern about it just because Umbreon's pretty nicely able to check most sets, and so I don't expect it to have that wall breaking power. Wigglytuff, I'm not expecting to see it. Obviously, it has some alternative wish support. It can do some teleport things. I don't necessarily break it super easily, but it's not something that's going to pressure me either. It's just a mon that might offer him some bulk if he needs it for the matchup, which is the same thing with Duosion. Not really too worried about Duosion. It could try to set up as like some kind of calm mindset or something like that, but I'm not too worried about it. And then finally, he's got the Galarian Lanoon, which I have no expectation of seeing in this matchup. It doesn't really have any incentive. It doesn't really do anything, so it's just a mon for him to use if he wants. So that's his team. That's kind of what my initial concerns are and what he might bring in looking at it. Looking at my first mon, obviously, once again, it's going to be the Mew. Mew just has reason to come every week. This week, I am opting again for a Timid Nature. 248 HP, 28 defense, which is just leftover EVs, 232 speed. That 232 speed is to outspeed Urshifu, who I expect to be scarfed, but this gives me the assurance to know it's scarfed, just so I outspeed it reliably. And I know that if it goes first, it's absolutely a scarf. That just gives me useful information. Substitute Combine, Draining Kiss, Flamethrower. Because it's a Scarf Urshifu, I expect it, or if it's a Scarf Urshifu, I expect it could be a problem to deal with. But Mew has a really easy time clicking Substitute in front of a lot of Mons. The Scizor doesn't want to 1v1 it until it knows its moves. He needs to assume Mew is carrying Flamethrower or some kind of fire move for Scizor. And so Scizor has to respect that early game. Vaporeon can't break a sub. Rotom's going to struggle to break a sub, especially after a Calm Mind. Donphan's forced to retreat on Mew most of the time. Diancie is going to struggle to 1v1 Mew, and I can get some sub play. Same thing with Wigglytuff. So there's room for Mew in this matchup to get subs safely, and safe subs give me a lot to work with, especially once the Gengar is out of play. I can't deal with the Gengar with this Mew, so I need to get rid of Gengar before this Mew can really take off. And then Noivern I need to scout for if it shows up in this match to make sure it's not a switcheroo set. I can deal with most other sets except for maybe a Toxic one with Infiltrator. Otherwise, I'm pretty well suited with Mew to handle the Infiltrator damage and just kind of Draining Kiss my health back. But that's generally what it's trying to do. It's more or less my win condition. Remove Gengar from play, scout for Noivern, and then look for any free window to sub, because I can sub in front of something like Vaporeon especially. I can start combining. If Vaporeon pivots into Urshifu, I predictively click Substitute on Urshifu going first, and if it U-turns, then I'm back behind a sub. If it Wicked Blows, I'm back behind a sub, and then he's kind of forced to retreat on the next turn. So I can continue to get Calm Minds up and then start getting health back with Draining Kiss, so I'm able to eat a few without too much worry. The Corviknight, Relaxed nature, a Rocky helmet in this matchup, 248 HP, 8 special attack, 252 defense. So the relaxed nature paired with 26 speed IVs just reliably ensures that I'm going to underspeed the Vaporeon unless the Vaporeon is going, 0 IV, negative speed nature, basically. This is going to outspeed, maybe a mixed Vaporeon with Flip Turn and Scald that ran a negative speed nature. This will underspeed that. And so this gives me slow pivot in front of it so that Vaporeon will do whatever attack it's going to do. Corviknight safely clicks U-turn after the attack has happened, and then I get to bring something else in safely. And so that's kind of what we're going for in Corviknight in this matchup. Pressure to help deal with Urshifu clicking Wicked Blow, or just to 1v1 the Scizor, because Scizor will run out of PP before it could really break through the Corviknight. U-turn for momentum. Brave Bird just so I can really smack the Urshifu for good damage, as well as the Roserade if it shows up, and the Gengar. Defog, just to get rid of hazards in case he starts stacking some I don't like, and then Roost to get health back. Pretty standard Corviknight set. Just trying to do standard Corviknight things. The only real tech in play here is underspeeding the Vaporeon so that I have slower momentum and I can control the field a little bit better. The Cinccino. Originally, this Cinccino was the Galarian Darmanitan. I opted into Cinccino eventually in the end because Vaporeon was such a problem for the Galarian Darmanitan to break. If it was like a Rocky Helmet Vaporeon, there was just literally nothing my Darmanitan was going to be able to do to that Vaporeon. Every U-turn would cost me health. Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Flare Blitz, none of them are generating enough damage. And so I start to get walled out by a Vaporeon, and I need to be able to pressure it to a degree so that if it's a haze set, I can try to break it so that Mew has an opportunity to set up. But this Cinccino is a Jolly Nature, 40 HP, 252 attack, 216 speed. Speed is made so that I outspeed, Timid Gengar, which is 350. So I'm at 352, I believe, with this Cinccino. U-turn, Rock Blast, Bullet Seed, Tail Slap. U-turn for momentum in case I just want to scout the field. Rock Blast really obliterates the Rotom Heat. It almost one-hit KOs the Gengar, and then if I click Rock Blast and Scizor hasn't Mega Evolved yet and Scizor switches in, the combination of the Rock Blast on the non-Mega Evolved Scizor and then the Rock Blast after the Scizor Mega Evolves has the potential to be enough to hit KO it. Or if Scizor gets chipped down by a couple of Rocky Helmet damages, then I am pretty reliably able to click Rock Blast and Scizor can't switch in without getting 2-hit KO'd. Bullet Seed for Vaporeon, although Tail Slap also will 2-hit KO. Bullet Seed is a non-contact move, which will be helpful in case Rocky Helmet Vaporeon does show up. And then obviously Skill Link is the ability. Kind of a win condition if I can check a couple of things and open the field up to clicking something like Tail Slap or something like Rock Blast pretty freely. Otherwise, just really good at giving me a necessary speed tier and a bit of momentum and some good output on some of his bulkier pieces. Pyukumuku, normally against Frandy, I am hesitant to bring Pyukumuku. I think I've had it available to me in 3 of our previous battles, and I've only brought it to 1 of them. It's just a mon I know he preps for, I know he considers, I know he tries to address, and so I tend not to lean into Pyukumuku too much in our matchups because I expect he's going to handle it better than most. But with the Urshifu and the Mega Scizor in this matchup, it really made sense to bring Pyukumuku just as an additional Rocky Helmet user, additional bulk, additional pivot, and then we'll get to the ability tech in a second. So 252 HP, 252 defense, 4 special defense, recover, baton pass, mirror coat, counter. Scarf Urshifu, especially if it's the Jolly Nature, can't 2-hit KO it. Scizor obviously can't 2-hit KO with any move without boosts. And then Donphan also struggles to break through it. He's obviously going to be pressured pretty heavily by something like Gengar, something like the Roserade or the Noivern potentially, but he's well suited to handle the physical attackers. Opting for Innards Out in this matchup over Unaware because Urshifu is not likely to be a setup mon in my opinion, and if it's a setup Urshifu, it's very vulnerable to my Mew set, so I expect that not to show up. Mega Scizor doesn't have a lot of incentive to run Sword Stance in this matchup because of Corviknight. And then anything else, I don't see setup being too big of a concern, or if it's going to be set up, I couldn't stop it anyway with Pyukumuku. If it's Nasty Plot, Gengar, Pyukumuku wasn't going to stop that. If it's Nasty Plot, Rotom, Heat, same problem. I'm not going to stop that with Pyukumuku anyway, so what's the point? But Innards Out gives me the ability to maybe take a couple of hits. So maybe he gets rocks down and then Pyukumuku comes in on a wicked blow. It does enough where I get 2-hit KO by wicked blow. The Urshifu has to eat 2 helmet damages, so 34% on helmet, plus the innards out retaliation at the end. So I end up pretty much obliterating most of Urshifu's health in those kind of situations where I'm willing to make that trade-off, willing to punish. And then if he doesn't go for that, if he tries anything else, I have Baton Pass to pivot out. Mirror Coat's really specifically for something like Gengar in case I need to just bounce that and attack back and kind of get Gengar out of play. That helps with it. No toxic on it because I expect Mega Scizor to reliably switch in on this most of the time, and so I can't really status that, or something like Roserade if it shows up. So I just didn't see any good value in toxic. He just has too many answers to it. But that's generally what Pyukumuku is trying to do here, is just kind of punish the Urshifu Mega Scizor core and then create enough momentum and then get itself sacked at the right time to give me momentum back, because I can do a lot on innards out damage or just losing Pyukumuku in general. I can play with that. Nidoqueen, pretty standard Nidoqueen here. Modest, 112 HP, 12 defense, 252 special attack, 4 special defense, 128 speed. Speed investment is so I creep just a little bit past Rotom Heat. It's more than a point just in case his Scizor is trying to account for that as well, but it's not too much more. I don't expect Scizor to try and speed creep my Nidoqueen, just because Scizor wants to run bulk. If my Nidoqueen is determined to, it can guarantee outspeed Mega Scizor. And so Scizor has a really hard time trying to 1v1 it for the speed win, just because I have every reason to be in an advantageous spot there. And Scizor has to give up a lot of bulk to even try for it. So I don't expect that to be a real issue here, although he could theoretically have out-creeped me with his Scizor depending on its investment. Earth Power, Sludge Wave, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower. No room to run Substitute, unfortunately. Rotom Heat forces me to carry Sludge Wave, so I have a move for it. Earth Power, I'm forced to carry for something like Diancie or Gengar. Thunderbolt, I need to carry for Vaporeon so that I have potential to 2-hit KO it. Flamethrower, I have to carry for the Mega Scizor. So really limited on my move pool options. But it is a really hard mon for him to switch into if I can get field control with my Nidoqueen. He doesn't really have any good switch-ins that are safe because Nidoqueen has the coverage to punish anything, so it's just a matter of guessing correctly. And maybe if he were to bring like Eviolite Delusion, that might be something, but that would be like the only thing that could safely switch in and not feel pressured by a Nidoqueen attack if I call to predict. So if I can get some good momentum to get it on the field, it is a real problem for his team to address. And then finally, the Umbreon. Umbreon is a weird, peculiar piece to bring in this matchup because it doesn't handle Urshifu or Scizor well at all. But I needed something to reliably check Mega Gengar, just because, or not Mega Gengar, just Gengar in general, because Gengar is a problem for my team otherwise, where I don't have a good switch in. And so this just gives me something that has the ability to come in on its stab. If he misses Focus Blast, then I'm in business. So Bold Nature, 248 HP, 124 defense, 136 special defense. A really peculiar move pool. I am running Dark Pulse just as good ways to chip the Gengar, good ways to just kind of get a little bit of chip in general. I'm running a Zap Cannon, which is a Gen 2 move that Umbreon still has access to. It forces me to run Inner Focus as the ability, but that's not the end of the world. I am opting for Zap Cannon because most of the pieces that he wants to hard switch in on Umbreon can be hit by the Zap Cannon, and given that paralysis status, Urshifu might want to hard switch in on it. Zap Cannon can paralyze it. Same with Mega Scizor. Same with Vaporeon. Obviously, the Rotom Heat, I can't status with that, which is why I'm running Wish and Baton Pass. So if I expect Rotom Heat to be the piece that switches in, then I just click Baton Pass, get that slow momentum into something like my Chinchino, where I can pretty freely click Rock Blast, and I'm back in business again. EV's invested in a way where Gengar can't 2-hit KO me if it's like a really offensive set. And then, like I said, Baton Pass for momentum, Zap Cannon to try to inflict status on some mons so that I have some status to work with on my side of the field, because his team is hard to deal with. I expect he could bring Cleric Vaporeon. If he does, though, that leaves him very vulnerable again to my sub Mew. So it's really a trade-off game where he has to pick the Vaporeon set he wants to use. I mean, he has clerics everywhere, to be fair. He has Vaporeon that can be a cleric, I believe. Roserade has a aromatherapy, Diancie has Heal Bell, and then Wigglytuff also has Heal Bell. It's just a matter of whether or not he wants to pack that for his Mons in this matchup if he expects me to inflict status, which I have a harder time doing because I can't really reliably lay T-Spikes as he has two good poison types, a Levitator, and a Steel type that all have reason to come. So I don't see a lot of hazard play or status play going in my favor in this matchup, but if he wants to bring some heal ball, that would be really fortunate for him because I think Zap Cannon could be a problem if I catch the right piece off guard. So that's my team. That's what I'm going for. Generally, just trying to hold the line with Umbreon, Pyukumuku, and Corviknight, and then pivot into my Nidoqueen and Cinccino as necessary to break pieces, and then a late game Mew to take control once Gengar and Noivern have been accounted for. So let me get things switched over. All right, and as you can see, I was able to successfully, oh, I need to adjust this just slightly, I think. 1 second, folks. Oh, I know what I did. Whoops. Hold on. There we go. Perfect. So, as you can see, I was able to get my images for the teams on there this week, so I am quite happy about that. Hopefully, it'll be a running theme going forward. So this should help to better showcase what's happening mid battle because I can kind of play with that a little bit, and I'll show it as we go through this battle. But looking at his team, he brought the Urshifu, which no surprise, the Mega Scizor, no surprise, the Gengar, no surprise, the Rotom Heat, no surprise, the Vaporeon, no surprise, the Wigglytuff is the singular piece that does surprise. What I'm not going to register at team preview, and it will take me until probably mid batch to become aware of it, is that Wigglytuff and hints that Vaporeon is not necessarily wish support in this match. It might be the Wigglytuff doing that role, so that Vaporeon maybe can do something else. And so Wigglytuff's kind of the giveaway there. I'm not going to register it in team preview, but it's pretty apparent looking at it now that Wigglytuff is maybe there is more. It's just wish support, so that Vaporeon is more enabled to do something else. But that's what he's got in this matchup. You know, we've already gone over my team. No real surprises here. I'm looking at this team. Cinccino is a pretty solid leadoff just because the only good counter lead to Cinccino that I'm nervous about is the Urshifu, although I would probably retreat on the Scizor as well on the expectation that Scizor is just going to click Bullet Punch and I don't want to eat that turn 1 damage. So we'll get into the leadoffs. I lead Cinccino, like I said. He leads Scizor. And like I said earlier, if Scizor did come out, I'm just going to respect it on turn 1, not risk anything. And so I'm just going to hard switch into the Corviknight. Scizor is going to come in, click U-turn for momentum, which is fine. I get 17% chip on it, so I'm happy with that. Rotom Heat comes in. I'm going to hard switch to my Umbreon just to scout that out. Vaporeon comes onto the field against my Umbreon. It's one of those pieces where I don't expect his Vaporeon to retreat, so I'm going to click Zap Cannon here just to go for the early paralysis. Obviously, it's a guarantee if I hit, which I did. So Vaporeon gets paralyzed, which is nice for me. Urshifu comes in. Need to respect close combat. I'm not yet willing to risk my Corviknight against Urshifu until I have to. Corviknight's really designed as a better Mega Scizor check or Mega Scizor counter than Pyukumuku is. Pyukumuku is really designed to sacrifice itself to Urshifu if I need to. Urshifu clicks U-turn, which again, more Rocky Helmet chip on the Urshifu, so I'm happy with that. Scizor comes in, I know it's going to click knockoff, so I know I'm losing a Rocky Helmet. I decide Pyukumuku's makes more sense to lose at this point in the match, so I'm going to just let that be lost. Baton pass out into the Mew. I know he has to respect that my Mew has a reason to come in on Scizor, so I know it's going to retreat, and I can pretty safely click substitute, which is good with me. I'm going to click Calm Mind here because that's the smart move to click. and then he is going to teleport into the Urshifu. So what I should do on this turn, and I'm going to make a mistake on turn 8, is what I should do is expect that this is Scarf Urshifu, and I should just click substitute again, expecting it to U-turn out or to do something else. I know I'm not going to get a free hit on this, so I shouldn't expect to. He's going to U-turn. Like I said, he goes first because he's Scarf, which is confirmed. And then I'm going to click Draining Kiss. Just a waste of a turn. I should have substituted again. I should have clicked Flamethrower. I should have clicked a different move. Just a missed opportunity. Gengar comes in. It doesn't do much damage with Shadow Ball. I'm under the assumption at the moment that it is going to be a Scarf Urshifu or a Scarf Gengar because the damage output wasn't enough to suggest Specs, and I didn't see any Life Orb or Black Sludge coming into play. So my assumption is that this is a Choice Lock Gengar, especially when it retreats after the Shadow Ball. Anyway, it retreats. I knew it's going to be a safe opportunity for me to have clicked Baton Pass there, and I'm going to come back in with Chinchino. Chinchino is pretty safely able to click Rock Blast. I mean, Urshifu can come in on Rock Blast. It doesn't want to just keep eating chip this early in a match, so it's not ideal for the Urshifu. And then because this Scizor is now at 67%, my Rock Blast is going to pretty reliably 2-hit KO it. It does around 38 to 40% for 5. So he's going to Bullet Punch, sacrifice his Scizor. My Chinchino is going to be able to score a really early kill, which is really nice in this matchup. Just helps me get rid of one of his bigger breakers really early. So that makes me happy. He's going to come in with the Gengar. And again, I'm operating under the assumption it is a Scarf Gengar. If I had believed otherwise, my Rock Blast there probably has a decent chance to KO it. It depends on its bulk investment, which it can't run that much bulk because my Infernape requires him to be mostly fully speed invested, and Gengar doesn't really have bulk to begin with, so it doesn't really want to overinvest in a stat that's already bad. But he Sludge Waves. I'm good at Baton Pass on the assumption he knows I go to Corviknight. He Sludge Waves again. I Baton Pass into the Corviknight. I assume he's Scarf, as I've been assuming this whole time. So when he Thunderbolts here, it really catches me by surprise. Was not prepared for that. Really, really puts me in a bad spot because Corviknight was my big answer to Urshifu, and now it's no longer a good answer. I'm U-turning there. Disable, whatever. Chinchino's going to come back in now, scare it out. I'm going to click Rock Blast because I have to. I have given that Gengar too much freedom to do quick moves, and so I'm forced to address it specifically on the field. Would have preferred to have been able to click U-turn or predictively click Tail Slap, but I was forced to click Rock Blast, which does some decent chip to Urshifu, but not as much as I would like. What he should be doing is clicking Wicked Blow. I think that's really the safe move for him to click. I can't really pressure that as well as he would like, but he's going to click U-turn for momentum. I don't think that's necessarily the right call. Lets my Corviknight come back on the field. I'm going to send out Nidoqueen on the expected Shadow Ball or Thunderbolt. But then I'm going to go to Chinchino on a hard expectation he either clicks Shadow Ball again or that he flees. Regrettably, he has Psychic in his arsenal as well, so I lose my Chinchino for nothing. It was a really bad switch in by me. I should have maybe scouted for that last move a little better, but I didn't, and so I lose my Chinchino early on for a misplay. It forces me back into the Umbreon, who has to click Dark Pulse to address what's on the field. I'm forced back into Corviknight. Again, he should be clicking Wicked Blow or Close Combat. I don't know why he's not. I mean, Close Combat I can see the faults in. I think Wicked Blow is a fine click. He knows my Umbreon can't really pressure it that well, except for fishing with a Zap Cannon. So he's just yielding a lot of momentum here, ironically, to click U-turn. The Thunderbolt on the Gengar. I'm going to hard switch into Umbreon and the expected Psychic, but it was Shadow Ball instead, which is fine. Umbreon's just barely, and I looked at this, he's just barely out of range for Sludge Wave to KO, so I'm happy to see it survive. Get Dark Pulse, pretty much chip it all the way down in health. I expect he's going to click Thunderbolt here, and he does, which I'm happy to sack my Pyukumuku to get rid of his Gengar, because Gengar is the only piece prohibiting my Mew from setting up. So if I can get this Gengar off the field like I just did, then my Mew is much more enabled to come in and set up. And so it's a win-win for me, in my opinion, where I'm able to get rid of his Gengar, kind of lose my Pyukumuku, which isn't necessarily ideal, but I get to get momentum off of that so that I can ideally set up the situation for my Mew to clean up at this point in the game. But it's not yet fully decided. I need to play carefully. Urshifu comes back in. My Nidoqueen comes back in. Really big turn for him here. So if he clicks Wicked Blow, I lose this game. We discussed it in post game. What seems to have been the issue is that he expected me to have had a Rocky Helmet on the Nidoqueen as well. And so he was worried that if he clicks Wicked Blow on Nidoqueen and then he has to click Wicked Blow on Corviknight, then he just loses the game because then Urshifu goes down and he's left with Vaporeon, Wigglytuff, and Rotom Heat, which are not enough to pressure the Mew. So he runs away because he sees it as an auto lose if I have Helmet on this. I don't. We've established I have Life Orb in the past, but I haven't attacked with this Nidoqueen yet, and he hasn't hit it with a physical attack, so he doesn't know what the item is, which obviously concerns him. If he clicks Wicked Blow, he wins this game. 11%, I'm going to lose my health to that. I'm going to get KO'd by the Wicked Blow, going to get KO'd by the Wicked Blow with my Corviknight, going to get KO'd by the Wicked Blow with my Mew. So if he clicks Wicked Blow there, he wins the game, but he got nervous and he walked it off, which is huge because I'm just double switching into the Corviknight on the expected Wicked Blow, hoping for maybe a bad U-turn. But let me go back again. Oh, next turn. So the big thing about him hard switching into Vaporeon while I hard switch into Corviknight is that normally Corviknight doesn't outspeed the Vaporeon. We established in the prep that I intentionally undersped Vaporeon. So if Vaporeon wasn't paralyzed here, I still lose this game because I lose Corviknight. I lose my ability to address the Urshifu with the Corviknight. But because it's paralyzed, I now am going to outspeed it, which means I get a free safe roost, which gets me back over 50%. And Urshifu can't do 50% with Wicked Blow, which means he needs 2 attacks to KO the Corviknight, which means he eats 2 pieces of Rocky Helmet, which means the Corviknight would take down the Urshifu with it. So it's a trade-off that I come out on top of because he loses his last offensive option and I still have my Mew pretty much full health. Anyway, he forces the retreat. I get a roost in, so I get back over 50%. I'm going to throw away my Umbreon here for momentum. So he's forced to overheat, which takes away most of his attacking power. Really big thing there is that, I'm happy to lose Umbreon because that creates a pretty free window for Mew to do whatever it wants. I don't know if this is a Scarf Rotom Heat. It doesn't matter at this point because if it is a Scarf, it only can click overheat. If it's anything else, I outspeed it because my Mew is EV'd in a way to outspeed Urshifu, so it outspeeds the Rotom as well, which gives me a free substitute here. And this is really where things start to turn for me because now I have this free Calm Mind window to set up with. Rotom's forced to pivot out. He has to go into his Urshifu. I'm going to play it smart this time. I'm going to substitute again on the U-turns, which is what I should have done earlier. So now I stay safe behind a sub, and I can keep clicking Calm Mind. And the big thing here is that I can eat a lot of U-turn sub breaking with my Mew because he has 2 Mons alive with enormous HP stats, the Wigglytuff and the Vaporeon. So my draining kisses on those are going to be really, really effective at giving me health back because they have such massive health stats to begin with. So I have a really easy time being behind a sub with this Mew. I'm going to click Draining Kiss. He's going to teleport back into Urshifu to get Urshifu back to full health, which is a good idea. Makes it a little bit harder to break it, but at this point, at +2, Draining Kiss is going to be enough to 1-hit KO. So I'm going to substitute again because every time Urshifu comes on the field, I click substitute, expecting it to U-turn out. I stay behind a sub. I prevent myself from being pressured by anything. Urshifu's going to come do it again. I'm going to click substitute again on the predicted U-turn. Keep behind the sub. I need to be a little watchful of PP, but I still have 12 of them, so I'm not too worried at this stage. And then I need to get more and more boosts. This 26% reveals that the Wigglytuff isn't going to go down very easily. Urshifu is going to come back in again. Same deal. Clicks U-turn. I click substitute. And then I'm going to go into getting some more Calm Minds in because I know it's a Wish Wigglytuff, so I need to get to +6 for special attack to really make sure I can handle it. It's a Wish. I'm going to keep Calm Minding, I know it can't pressure me, so there's no reason to try to attack it while it's getting a Wish coming in next turn and I can't KO it. I think I'm going to Calm Mind again here to get to max special attack. Wigglytuff's forced to teleport out. Urshifu's forced to come back in. I can pretty freely click. This was a bad call by him. I don't capitalize on it because I have no reason to do anything besides click substitute. But he could have lost his Urshifu there and lost the game. It was just an impatient turn. Rotom Heat comes in, Draining Kiss. Rotom Heat confirms that it's a Rocky Helmet, which I wasn't aware of before. Not really a big concern for me. I can click Flamethrower pretty quickly. As long as I avoid crits, I'm fine. I'm not pressured by any of his mons. Urshifu comes back in. I'm going to click Substitute again on the expected switch out. Urshifu comes back in with Wigglytuff. And I'm still safe behind a sub. Still safe to click Draining Kiss because he can't do anything about that. I get all my health back because of, again, that massive HP stat. Urshifu comes back in. I'm going to click Substitute again. And then now we've reached the point where he's going to be close to forcibly sacking Mons to try to PP stall my substitutes, which are down to 7. He is making some progress in that regard, but he's on a very short time frame to break enough of them before my sub, or to break enough subs before he runs out of Mons to switch in on, because he's forced to basically sack Rotom Heat here. I click Substitute as I've been doing. He now is forced to give up this Rotom Heat to get Urshifu back on safely. So really making some strides now with it. He's running out of pieces to pivot in on, and some of his pieces are starting to crumble. Urshifu comes back in. I'm going to click Substitute because that's the safe thing to click. Wigglytuff isn't leftover, so it can't protect stall to get little bits of chip back with its health, which means I can pretty freely click Flamethrower here. Wigglytuff is going to go down. I am now down to just 2 more pieces of his, the Vaporeon and the Urshifu. Urshifu comes back in to click U-turn because that's all Urshifu can do. I'm going to click Substitute again because I have enough to play with still have 5. I'm going to click Draining Kiss because that's the safe thing to do. No risk in it. Get my health back to full in a good spot. Paralyze, which seals the game because now I just click Draining Kiss twice and I win. Not that it really mattered. I had enough PP. It was irrelevant. We discussed after the game, and what's pretty clear from the damage output on this Vaporeon is that it's Assault Vest, so it didn't have Wish to play with anyway. So it was going to go down to Draining Kiss as soon as the Wigglytuff went down. It was just a matter of if he could stall it out long enough to burn through all of my substitutes, but he was not able to do that. I'm able to take down the Vaporeon, and then Urshifu comes in. Urshifu is also going to be taken care of in short order, and I'm going to get the quick Draining Kiss on that as well and KO it. So a little bit worrisome in that game. I had a couple of misplays that were nearly costly. Thankfully, they did not break my game, and then Mew was able to come in late game and win this with the setup set that I expected could be potent. I just needed to deal with that Gengar, and that Gengar nearly broke me because I misplayed drastically around that Gengar. But this was our first really close match. We've historically not had close matches. You know, Frandy is the only person in my entire draft experience to 6-0 me in our Ubers League one season. I've gotten 6-0s and 5-0s on him previously as well. So we haven't historically had close matches. This was a very close match. You know, the 3-0 looks more skewed than it is, but at one point he was clicking Wicked. All he had to do was click Wicked Blow and he had won that game. So really, really close affair. I don't look forward to playing his team again. I had to show a lot of tech, whereas he mostly brought standard stuff minus the Wigglytuff, and it was still very effective. Scarf Urshifu I expected from the beginning. It's what showed up. It did exactly as I expected it to do, and I still struggled mightily to get around it. Scizor did what Scizor expected to do, so no real surprises other than Wigglytuff and Assault Vest Vaporeon, which is what I was talking about in the team preview where Wigglytuff was information I should have gleamed upon a little better, because clearly it was trying to do something that normally Vaporeon handles just fine, which is Cleric and Wish. And so the fact that the Wigglytuff showed up should have been a clear indication that something like an Assault Vest Vaporeon was what he was looking at. All in all, I moved to 2-0, positive 9 differential in this league. Really content with that. My Mew continues to be a really dominant force on my team, which is, you know, a mixed bag of feelings. It's 10-0 with kills, which is really cool to see. I don't usually lead kill leaderboards, especially early season. So having something at number 1 on the leaderboard is really neat. But it is making me feel a little over reliant on Mew to be my cleaner, my closer, my win con for pretty much every match, which is not reliable gameplay going through a whole season. So I need to get more utility out of some of my other mons. I couldn't bring Altaria this match; it didn't have a good matchup. I couldn't bring my Galarian Darmanitan for the reasons we discussed, and then my breakers didn't really have the chances to shine like I wanted them to. Nidoqueen didn't get to attack all game, and then the Cinccino I regrettably sacked prematurely. So, content with where things are, wanting to get more versatility out of the team going forward. But it's been a long video. Really happy with how the slides worked in here. I'm hoping they reflect on the YouTube once I upload it, but really happy with how all that's going. Thank you again to Ren for helping me with that. Really looking to continue to do that going forward. So stay tuned for more. I have one more video to get up to date with, and then I will try to keep them ongoing through the rest of the season and try to get them out like maybe the next day after the battle. So stay tuned for more of that.